Spring of 2015, my senior year of high school, my mom and I come down to BYU for me to try out for the BYU cheer team. And I don't make it.
She could have gone and cheered at a different school, but she didn't want to. She wanted to come to BYU. This had been her dream since she was a little girl.
2016, I'm here at BYU, and I decide to try out again.
We get the call at the end of the day, didn't make it again.
And then the spring of 2017, I again decide, third time's the charm, I'm gonna try out for BYU cheer.
This kid is amazing. Whatever it is, she's not quite there yet.
2018, spring rolls around, and I'm thinking about trying out.
She had a severe ankle injury that put her out for the whole summer.
Occasionally, we have kids who are persistent enough to come back 1, maybe 2 times. In my 21 years of coaching, Paige is the first person that I've had that's actually come back that many times.
She wasn't proud of the fact that she didn't make it to BYU cheer. And so she kept it pretty hidden.
When she was 6, I started her in gymnastics, and that set her off.
When the lights came on, it's when she shined the best.
That was the beginning of who Paige is.
When I was about 9, I was working on some specific strength-oriented skills on beam, and I ended up overdoing it, and I injured my shoulder.
So we just took her to the doctors, and they just told us to quit. And that wasn't the answer she wanted.
It was cartwheels to the table. This is what she did. It's what we always saw her doing. So for her to have that year off, it was kind of devastating for her in some ways until she could overcome that injury.
I ended up trying out for my high school cheer team to somewhat try and fill that void that gymnastics had left me.
She's fearless. She doesn't care. She'll try anything.
While I was cheering in high school, I had a few concussions. The most notable or significant probably happened when I was at a basketball game.
And she was in some sort of a stunt up in the air.
She was always willing to do whatever they wanted to try, so it put her in line for getting injured pretty easily.
I was flying in the air up in a stunt during a timeout, and when the timeout was ending, the referee decided to come out onto the court, and he was moving backward and he was moving really fast. And as he was backing up, he ran into my bases, the girls underneath me that were holding me up.
And she got dropped to the ground. And to sit into the stands and see her plop to the ground and bounce, and everybody just gasps when that happens. It wasn't something you want to see.
However, I did get up and I kind of powered through the rest of the game. I probably shouldn't have, and now I know I shouldn't have.
And that kind of set in motion the symptoms for a lot of these concussions.
In July of 2017, I was in a car accident. I got T-boned. While I walked away from the accident that day, seemingly just fine, I started to develop some symptoms as the days and weeks rolled on.
And it seemed like all of the symptoms that she'd had from prior concussions just piled back on her.
I started picking up on things like headaches and dizziness and being tired. And when she opened up about how she was throwing up every day and how she was getting really exhausted doing simple tasks, I thought that was a bit odd.
She just wasn't really getting better. And so I think those were sort of compounded from the previous concussions she had.
She visited a few doctors and they thought it was maybe something wrong with her digestive system and her digestive tract. At one point, they even wanted to take out her gallbladder. They thought that might be the solution.
It was frustrating to kind of have this misdiagnosis or feel like I wasn't getting anywhere and that I would maybe just have to deal with it.
But in the meantime, she was starting to fall behind in school and ended up withdrawing from most of her classes.
And I did start improving symptomatically, but I was living a fraction of the life that I had been before.
She had actually been working here at CFX as an intern, and then also as what we call a PCC, or a patient care coordinator. And she happened to be sharing with her colleagues some of the symptoms she was having. And my partner, Dr. Mark Allen here at the clinic, he overheard her and turned to her and said, "Have you considered a brain injury?" And up to that point, she had never really thought of that. Now, Paige, after delving a bit more clinically and asking her some questions, we found out that she had had 7 concussions up to that point. And again, her medical doctors were doing the best they could, but if you're not fully aware of all the physiologic, the emotional, the cognitive, the sleep problems that a concussion can cause, you don't know to draw those lines to those dots.
And with that, I was rapidly scheduled for a functional MRI, and when the MRI came back and we got the results, they immediately decided to book treatment for me. Based on my diagnosis and the functional MRI that I received, we were then able to put together a treatment plan where I could perform physical, cognitive, and other therapies and activities to both work my brain, to reactivate it, and then also rest my brain to get it to recover properly, so that way I could heal from this long-standing injury. Their clinic and the work that they did for me there was nothing short of life-changing. I could not be here today without them. It truly makes me laugh when I look back and think that I started working at a brain injury clinic while having a brain injury. Following my 4th year at BYU, I realized I had one more year for my undergrad due to taking time off from my injury.
And I remember our conversation we had driving back from a vacation in St. George. And it got kind of quiet, and she looked at me and she's like, you know, Coop, I think I want to try out for BYU cheer one more time. You know, I was kind of quiet, didn't say anything. And I looked at her and I said, are you okay to not make it one more time? She's like, yeah, I'm ready. I'm accepting my fate. You know, I'm willing to give my all, and if I fail one more time, so be it. But I want to try out.
I think from just the previous years, what had happened, she didn't want to involve us emotionally. She just made the decision on her own.
I remember coming back down here to the Smith Fieldhouse, a place that held so many negative memories associated with not making cheer. And while being nervous, I remember walking in the door and feeling completely calm and way different than I had on any of my other tryout experiences.
Paige calls me, and she's really emotional, and I'm like, I was scared. I thought something happened. I thought something happened to her, and so I was like, are you okay? And she goes, Mom, I made it. And I was like, you what? And she goes, Mom, I just made the cheer team. And I started crying. Because her dream has always been my dream. And for her to go through what she's gone through and have so many setbacks, and then for her to quietly try it one more time.
Making the BYU cheer team was an absolute dream come true. And then being able to cheer for 3 years on the team was even more than I thought I'd ever get.
Paige's story goes even just a step further because I actually appointed her as captain. I was so impressed with someone who would have the persistence to come back that many times. It showed that she is forgiving. It showed that she was determined. It showed all these things that are attributes that I look for when I am trying to choose a leader on this team. I've never regretted it for a second.
I truly lived my dream while on the BYU cheer team, but all dreams come to an end at some point in time. And with my master's degree finishing up and cheer finishing up, I had kind of put a nice closure on BYU, and I loved every minute of it, and I wouldn't change a thing about it. But I stepped from that dream straight into another dream. I have been accepted to medical school, and I have been so blessed by those that have decided to study the brain and the body. And without them, I would not be where I'm at today. And now that I'm where I am today, I want to be able to do that for somebody else. I want to be able to help someone, and even if it's just one person that I help, all of it will have been worth it.